The Keepers of Éire is the 2104 Global eBook Gold Award winner and the Bella Online Gold Award winner. In 2017, Jordan released a YA edition of The Keepers of Éire and published her middle grade anti-bullying spin-off novel, Reluctant Paladin. The Keepers of Alba, the second novel in her adult Celtic Dragon Riders series, was released on September 1st, 2020. She has been a member of the California Writers Club Tri-Valley branch since 2010. Now, for further information about Jordan, I highly recommend going to her website, jordanbernal.com, for a longer and very entertaining bio and 5 fun facts about her, and I enjoyed reading it. So today, Jordan will speak about pitching to agents or publishers, and you will learn the key components of a pitch, how to be concise, short and sweet, how to enjoy the conversation, to understand the ultimate goal of pitching, and to develop other uses for your pitch. So without further ado, let's welcome Jordan.
Okay, hello everyone. Can you hear me without the microphone?
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me over there without the microphone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There's some handouts here so that you guys can take notes on that. If you don't mind, that'd be easier for me.
Jordan, can you tell us where Tri-Valley is?
Tri-Valley branch is located down in the Tri-Valley, which includes Danville, Dublin, Pleasanton, Livermore, and San Ramon. But we have members all the way out from Castro Valley up to Concord and out. So kind of the East Bay, about an hour outside of San Francisco. So, okay, so first off, thank you for having me. I'm glad I got here in time. It was a bit hectic on the road, so I wanted to make sure I got here in time. And you'll notice when Jennifer introduced me, she didn't say anything about me being an agent. And that's because I'm not one, okay? I'm an author. So I'm gonna say, why am I talking about this? And I wanna be completely upfront on this. I'm not associated with any big publishing house. I do have my own small press for my novels. But I know a lot. And the reason I know a lot is because I volunteered with the San Francisco Writers Conference since 2010. And I have watched and heard attendees during their speed dating sessions. And for those who don't know what speed dating is, that's San Francisco Writers Conference 3-minute pitch fest, basically, where you get 3 minutes to sit down in front of an agent and do your pitch. And during those times, I have seen writers, attendees come in with pages and pages of handwritten information about their pitch or their book that they want to pitch to an agent. And I've seen them sit down, the agent's right in front of them, and they immediately look down and they read as fast as they can until the bell tings and says their 3 minutes is up. And I watch the agent's eyes roll in the back of their head, not literally, but figuratively. I've seen them look off and be bored. I've seen them, clean their nails, all kinds of things, because they don't want to be sitting there staring at the top of somebody's head and not looking at their face, okay? So once I saw that for a few years, a friend of mine, another writer friend of mine, Paula Chinnick, and I pitched a session to the San Francisco Writers Conference board. We wanted to do some sessions to help people hone their pitches based on what we had been observing. And our sessions that we devised, we did this in 2017, and they've become wildly popular at the San Francisco Writers Conference. I'm going to do a similar thing here towards the end here. But part of what we did is we did it for 2 reasons. One, to hone your pitch, but the second is to network with other writers. And you guys are in a great position because you're already networking within a club, just like I am at Tri-Valley Writers. We're going to utilize that networking capability when we're helping each other hone our pitches. Because, like, again, I'm not the definitive answer on every single thing about a pitch. I'm going to give you guys some things to work on, and you're going to help each other hone the pitches, kind of like in the critique group. So, today, how many of you have a book, have written a book, are in the middle of writing a book, any type of a book? Congratulations. Congratulations, because it is scary to take that book out that you've been working on for so long, probably by yourself, or only a few people in your critique group have looked at it and that kind of thing. And you're proclaiming to the world, here I am. But then you sit there and you say, okay, so now what? Now you need to get your book into the hands of readers, because isn't that our goal?
Yep.
Our goal is to get the book in the hands of readers. And there's several ways that you can do this. You can go to a big publishing house. Almost every single one of them wants you to be hooked up with an agent. Or you can do a smaller press, which also might want you to be hooked up with an agent, or you can do an independent publishing route. And that's a whole other topic, so I won't even get into the whole indie self-publishing topic right now. But you should have goals yourself. And from concept to publication, there's like lots of steps. So writing it is one step, but there's tons more. And I want you guys to think about pitching to an agent is just a subset of those steps. Once you're finished and you've honed that book as best you can, pitching to an agent is just a subset of those steps. It's the first step along that path. Each of those steps is designed for more engagement with that potential agent or editor or publisher that you're going to be working with. So the first thing you need to remember is your goal when you're doing a pitch, and I'm going to talk specifically about like an elevator pitch, a 3-minute pitch, because that's most what you find at places is a 3-minute pitch. Your goal is for that agent to ask you for a query letter to be sent to them. Maybe after the query letter, they might ask for a synopsis. They might ask for a certain number of pages or a certain 1 or 2 chapters, your first couple of chapters. Remember, your goal is to get past each of these steps, because along the way, as you work with an agent or as you decide to work with an agent, they're wanting to do something and build a relationship with you. So the pitch is like 3 minutes max, and you have to connect with them. And that's what we're going to work on, I'm going to talk about today, is connecting with them so that they will ask you for the next steps. And then you'll have more time with them to show them more about your writing so that they can read some of your writing and find out if they can represent you, if they have a spot for you. So remember your goal. From pitch, you're wanting to go on, have them request a query letter. They might request a synopsis, first couple of chapters or pages, okay? Pretty much every pitch, unless you happen to be pitching off of Twitter, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, pitches are going to include a couple of things. First off, you're going to have to introduce yourself. Just your name, a working title of your book, your manuscript, if you have a working title of it, the genre of that. If you have comparables, now again, comparables only if they are really comparables. And then you want to make sure you allow time for that conversation.
What are comparables?
Comparables are My book is like a mixture of this and this. That kind of gives you a good comparable of a similar author mixed with a TV show or two different books mixed together. That's similar to what your book would be like. An author that you've styled yourself up after and their style of book. But again, don't do a comparable unless it's truly a comparable. We'll get into a little bit more on comparables in a minute. Okay?
What happens if you've already gone through a publisher and your book is published, but you want to go and try to find an agent? Is that permissible now that the book has already been published?
Each agent's going to be a little bit different on answering that question. Some of them will entertain the possibility, some of them won't. It'll depend on each agent. I can't specifically say for each one. Doesn't hurt to try. We'll get into that too, because really, you don't try, the answer's always no. So, but I want you guys to remember to always allow some time for that conversation. Like I said, how many times have I saw people reading, head down, they've not even made eye contact, they probably couldn't even tell you if it was a man or a woman sitting in front of them. They just sat down, they had 3 minutes, they had to get as much information as they thought they needed to get out as quickly as possible, and they never had a dialogue. Believe me, that agent never connected with them either. And that's not what you want. You want to connect. Because remember, you're going to be building a relationship. So, an elevator pitch. It's basically 3 minutes or less. It's thinking what you would say to somebody in an elevator as you're going up or you're going down and they're asking you, so you're a writer, what do you write? Give me an idea of what your book's about. Or you're at a barbecue and, a friend's like, hey, so-and-so tells me, my cousin over here tells me you write. What do you write about? Something that you can give them that's quick, easy, that you can almost memorize. And I recommend something nice and short you can memorize. Some of us have a little bit shorter memory, and we'll talk about ways to hone that too. So that's what an elevator pitch is. It's a sentence or two that encapsulates what is great about your story, and it makes the agent want to hear more. And it really is short. So like 50 words max, for maybe even if you can hone it down, 25 words max. When I do this pitching at San Francisco Writers Conference, I try and get people to do 25 to 30, 35 words max. I'm going to give you guys some examples here shortly. And you want to cut out anything irrelevant, because it is, again, it's just a really quick grab for the agent to then ask you a couple of questions. If you can get that agent to ask you some questions about your story, you're better off hooking that agent if they're engaged and able to ask you a question about it. So, there's some key components in this, 25 to 50 words that you're going to want to do. You're going to want to reveal your protagonist. Give us a little something about their motives or their goal, something that's unique about them. I don't want their driver's license bio. I don't need to know that they're 6 foot, black hair, blue eyes. That doesn't tell us much about the protagonist. So you're going to want to give us some type of a motivation or their goal, something that's going to get thwarted. So that brings us to our second component. Convey the major conflict or the major plot point. Not your secondary plots and all that. And believe me, in my fantasy books, I have scores of subplots. But in the pitch, you really only want your key plot point. And then the last key component, you want to provide a hook. A hook on why the reader should care, off the wall, something that makes the agent go, wow, makes them remember you, okay? So There's a secondary way to look at this. One is you can write it in certain sentences. So in sentence 1, you can do the character's name and their vocation or their opening situation. So where they're at in their goal at the beginning of the book. And then second sentence would start with, but when, and that lays out the turning point in your story, the central conflict, or the inciting incident. And that pushes the protagonist to make the decision to step into that conflict. And then your third sentence would be, now, da-dun, da-dun, da-dun. And that lays out the stakes and maybe the crisis that the protagonist faces. So that's another way to look at it, is those 3 sentences. There's a couple of things that really can make your pitch stand out. You can use some cultural references to your advantage if you have them in your story. Like I said, the unique comparables that you can like mix genres with. So when you're doing a comparable, you can mix something that is similar in a book and a movie that would be similar to your book. But again, I said don't include comps that don't capture that spirit of your book. Okay. Focus really on the stakes that are pertinent for your protagonist. Every book needs something to justify that book's existence, and that your protagonist needs to overcome some type of an obstacle. Now, if you're writing nonfiction, like how-to books, obviously that isn't the case here, but I'll even give you an example of one of those in a few minutes, okay? Every word should count on your pitch, like I said, because now you're trying to do it in 25 to 50 words, something that's easy for you to remember and allows a dialogue. So every word counts. Pay attention to your verbs. You want strong verbs. Must decide is stronger than wants, even though it's an additional word. Confronts is stronger than they think about something. Strong verbs. And the same goes with adjectives. If you're going to use an adjective or an adverb, make it strong. Hone it down. Okay? And then if you can, use interesting things with strange combinations of things or characteristics or a wacky setting, something else that stands out in the agent's mind. Okay?
Can you give us an example of that?
Sure. Okay, so in what I write dragon riders and murders and things like that. But they're all set in contemporary Ireland. So how do dragons exist in contemporary Ireland? I have to do a whole little magic thing. So, I mean, I talk about how my young protagonist in my middle grade novel is facing a bully and everything else. But then his grandfather gets him to help with a wingless dragonette that's been bullied. And now he has to keep that a secret because dragons really do exist. You know, you leave that as a hook. Okay? There's also lots, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If the novel has a plot twist that's way deep into the novel, the kind of thing that you want the reader to be surprised when they get to it, should you tell that to the agent in your pitch, or would you kind of wait and keep it secret the way you would to a reader?
Okay, your agent is going to want to know everything eventually anyway. For the pitch, if it's a pivotal, I would keep it in. If it's not your main plot point through and you're running out of time, you're going to get time in the cover letter or your synopsis to add that in. But if it is really a good plot twist, I would make sure you work it in to your pitch.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How do you pitch like a set of poetry or essays or short stories?
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit tougher if you're going to do something like that. With an agent, you're going to look for an agent that wants those types of things, first off. And I would pitch to a theme. If you have a theme for your poems or a theme for your short stories. If you don't have themes specifically, I would look to one or two of your top poems or short stories to give them an example of what's in there. Okay? So, there's lots of pitch opportunities. Like I said, conferences. They've been doing that speed dating at San Francisco Writers Conference for, I mean, that's what they're known for. So they've been doing it for, 15, almost 20 years. Thriller Fest has them. Pretty much any genre fiction conference out there is going to have some form of a pitch session. They may call it something different. Then there's these wonderful things called online pitch parties on Twitter. And it's your book distilled down to 280 characters. And you can look these up, like Pitch Madness. It's hashtag PitMad. And I put that on your thing here so you guys can see that. There's a hashtag DVPit. You can go on, and what I would recommend you do is go look at some of these based on your genre. Watch them, because they'll give you some of the agents that are looking for things, and it'll give you genres. And make sure you're pitching to an agent that represents your genre. You're going to have to do your homework to make sure you pitch to an agent that is representing your genre only. Don't want to be pitching to somebody. I've written a fantasy, I'm not pitching to a memoirist. So, make sure that you do your homework first, too. Yeah.
So, this is the first time I've heard of that. That sounds very interesting. Do you have any idea of the level of effectiveness of getting an agent through Twitter?
The agents will come on there. I don't know, I don't have statistics as far as the effectiveness. But what I would recommend doing is, before you're ready to pitch, is go on and watch the stream, watch the feed, look at what other people are doing, look at what, how's that comparing to my pitch. Now again, it's your book, it's your manuscript, it's not anybody else's, so you have to tailor for you specifically. But it's a great way to go on and look at some of that stuff. And nothing tried, nothing, if you don't try it, you don't get any gain. The answer is always going to be no. So, and some of them will allow you to tweak and hone as you go. So, yeah, just kind of follow that along. I'm going to mention one other. The Women's National Book Association, the San Francisco branch, is doing their Pitchorama at the end of this month. April 29th. It's going to be on Zoom from 8 to 1 p.m. And I put the registration on here. You go to WNBA-SF chapter-org/save the date register for virtual pitch-orama. It's on your thing here. I think they charge you a little bit. They used to do it in person, but they've been doing it on Zoom. Again, it's another chance for you to get in front of actual agents.
Is that women only?
No,
Okay.
but the Women's National Book Association puts that on, and they're open to anybody.
Okay.
Anybody, yes. So again, just keep trying, because you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So, there's some other uses for a pitch. If you don't get an agent, or even if you do, if you're pitching to an agent, that pitch could be used as the part of your query letter. And I'll talk about a query letter in a moment. If you decide to not go with a big publishing house and you want to do something independent or with a small press or whatever, you can use that pitch and expand out for your back cover blurb or for your metadata about your book on Amazon. You can also use it on bookmarks for your book coming out. All of those, so it's a great idea to have some kind of a pitch, and then you can tweak it depending on what you need it for, to expand out for a book cover or whatever, and try different ones.
In the writing process, let's say, I'll give you an example. I'm in the editing process of my memoir right now, and I probably still have close to a year to go with my editor before I'm finishing my book. And, you know, after seeing you talk, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna work on, I've got a decent bit, I'm gonna work on my pitch. When is a good time would you recommend for people to start working on their pitch?
So,
And to start thinking about, you know, agents.
I don't think there's ever a too soon time to start looking at it or working on it, with one caveat. And if you're still, like if you write by the seat of your pants, I don't, I'm a plotter. But if you write by the seat of your pants and then you are then in the editing mode and you're probably going to be editing several different go-rounds of edits and you don't really know the full through line of your book, and you don't know the ending of that book or anything like that, I would wait until you get finished with those edits to where you feel comfortable that this is your complete book. You're not, any other changes are going to be minor. Okay? It's not going to change a huge plot point or anything like that. So, yeah.
So can I have a personal corollary to that. I'm a pantser, short stories or my book that I'm working on. And I find practicing working on a pitch or a cover letter forces me to think about where the book's going. If I'm stuck, sometimes I'm like, I have to come up with an end point. It can change, but it's a good practice. It kind of can force you to focus your energy.
Right.
Well said.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why I said I never think it's too early to start it, but you have to know that if you are a pantser, you need to make sure it's finished, and then you have to tweak it again, possibly, your pitch. Yeah.
And authors should know that one of the most common mistakes made in authorhood, and I'm also a filmmaker, and it's the same with gentlemen and women who create films. They create the film and they go, okay, now I gotta sell it. But you gotta, like, I am totally thinking about all that marketing and agent stuff now.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a couple of quick things on a query letter. So again, the query letter is the second thing on your goals to be able to send a query letter to the agent. This is where you get a chance to expand a little bit more. It's going to be at least about a page long or so. Some of them might allow you a little bit longer. And in that, I'm going to steal something that Lori McLean from San Francisco Writers Conference calls it. She calls it the hook, the book, and the cook. Okay? And I've heard several people use it this way. Her hook is a little bit different than what I was telling you about a hook on your key components of a pitch. The hook for her is the 1 or 2 sentence blip that sums up your story quickly. So her hook could be your pitch, okay? And it gives someone everything they need to know about your project really fast. It also usually has the title, the genre or category, might have the word count, might be a comparable title or a comparable author. And again, it's the 1 sentence quick blip.
Wait, I'm sorry. In one sentence, you're going to just sum up the book and
2
give
sentences.
So in 1 to 2 sentences, you're gonna have like. Summarize the book, or provide your pitch. That could be a 1 sentence. Depending on how you write it, I mean, 1 to 2 sentences is a general. You could maybe go up to 3, but I wouldn't do too much because I'm gonna get into a little bit more.
Yeah, but so, and then also the word count,
The word count for your manuscript, so it's the title, the genre, the word count, a comparable title or author if you have it, and like your pitch, your 1 sentence about the book. Then in the second section of your query letter, it's about the book. So here you're going to get a chance to expand a little bit more. It's you describing your book, and it should read like the back cover blurb or your jacket copy, which is what you see on any of the backs, most of the backs of the book in the library here. So generally 2 to 3 paragraphs summing up the story without giving away the ending, but doing your twist. Especially if you've got a good twist. You won't put it in there, but don't give away the ending. The agents and heirs want to know what the stakes are, who the character is, and why that character can't walk away. So it's basically the same thing that I was telling you about what your 3-minute pitch should be. This is why you can use your pitch to help you expand on your query letter. And then the cook. The cook is obviously the author, you. So depending on if you're writing fiction or nonfiction, this section can vary greatly. If it's fiction, they just want you to tell a little bit about yourself, if you have some past publications, or just something fun if you don't have any past publications. Hopefully it's a little bit of fun about that ties in with why you chose the subject matter to write that book. But it doesn't have to be. But that helps them get to know you a little bit better. Because again, you're building a relationship, okay?
During the cook part of my query, is that where I would mention that I created a film, a short film, like as a promotion to support my upcoming book?
Absolutely.
And won a couple awards at a couple of national festivals?
Absolutely. That's
Okay,
where you would add that. Okay, if you're writing nonfiction, the cook section of your query letter tends to matter a lot more, because you're going to be telling the person why you're the one to write that nonfiction book, especially if it's a how-to book. You need to show them that you have the authority, you have the know-how to provide that information to your readership. Okay, so that's where that would come in a little bit more.
Have you talked to agents about how much they care if you, whether or not you tell them in the first sentence, how you heard about them? You can show you've done some research to talk about something about them.
It would be nice, and I'll tell you. Yeah, well, so first off, always address, if you can find the specific agent that you are going to be pitching to, address them by their name. Don't address and use the same one for every single agent that you might be querying. And again, first sentence or so, I met you at San Francisco Writers Conference.
But if you didn't?
If you didn't, just go for the hook, right? If you are using something that's comparable and that agent represents somebody that you're using as a comparable, you can do a 1-sentence thing about how your book is comparable to their particular, the author that they also represent, and that's how you you chose to try and work with them. Yeah. Because again, that shows that you're doing your homework. Okay? You don't want anything generic. This is, again, your relationship building. And each step is a deeper and deeper relationship. Hopefully that you both work for both of you when you get to that point, okay? So I'm gonna kind of go a little, this might sound a little off topic, I'm gonna ask you guys a question. How many of you are in a critique group? Raise your hand. How come the rest of you aren't?
This is day one for me.
Ideally, if do you guys have critique groups within Sacramento? I would highly recommend critique groups because I'm gonna say, for me, helping other writers and them helping me, I learn more about the writing for myself than I would have just done writing by myself. And so that's, again, the benefit of pitching to others and receiving feedback from others. And we talked a little bit about me giving you guys feedback, but you're all going to be participating in that today. But I am going to keep a very strict time on that so that we can get as much done as possible, okay? So before I give you some examples and we do some, I'm going to also give you another little bonus. And most of this I got from author Shelley Adina, and it's writing a killer back cover copy. So it ties in with the pitch and your cover letter, because the goal of a back cover copy is to hook your reader. Okay, they're going to look at that front cover. If that interests them, they're going to flip it over, or they're going to open it up if it's a hardcover and read that back cover copy. And your goal, again, to bring readers to your book, so you want to hook that reader. So your cover attracts the reader, your back cover copy hooks them in and makes them want to turn to page 1. So again, those are all goals, steps that you want to do. The structure of a back cover copy, you might want to have a shout line. A shout line is like 5 words. Dragons exist in Ireland. Dragons, flame dragons. You know, something that shouts out something about your story.
What did you call that? Again,
It's a shout line.
a shout line?
Yeah. It's kind of, when you look at movie posters, they've got that quick 5-word or less thing that shouts out to you that tries to draw your attention. That's a shout line, okay? The body of your back cover should have about 2 to 3 paragraphs telling, again, about your story. So again, from your cover letter, a little bit from your pitch, and again, it should have a hook, something that challenges, or a story question at the end. Something that makes that reader who's looked at that back cover want to open up and turn to chapter 1. Okay? Use active verbs, vivid imagery, and some key words. You want to evoke emotion and something that resonates with the readers for your specific genre. So if you're writing a spy thriller, you know, you need to get that adrenaline going. You can't be doing long, drawn-out, flowery sentences. I mean, it's a spy thriller. It's a thriller. You got to get moving. Conversely, if you're doing a nice, relaxed memoir piece that you're doing a nice memory of something or whatever, then you don't necessarily need that heart-pounding for things, okay? So think about the genre you're writing in. You guys should all be reading in that genre anyway, so you get an idea of what readers are expecting in that genre. And you want to give a hint of the setting. I do a little bit more of a hint of the setting because my books are set in Ireland and Scotland and Wales, and they're set in modern day. So I want to take my reader, besides being on a journey with dragons, I want to take them there. I want them to smell the Guinness stew and take a sip of that Guinness with my characters. I want them there. I want them to feel the mist on their face, because that draws the reader in more. If you're setting a scene in San Francisco, you want them to feel that hustle and bustle of the city and the fog coming in over the Golden Gate Bridge. You want them to feel the climbing of the hills and things like that, because that brings your reader in for your stories, okay? And again, you want to end with a hook. So, I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples of pitches.
Can I ask one quick question first?
Sure.
How important it is when you're in front of an agent to have comps?
It's not critical. If you don't have comps, you don't have comps.
Okay.
Don't, that's why I say, if it doesn't fit and you're struggling to find a comp, don't include them. Again, because you only have 3 minutes. So if you don't have a comp, just move forward.
Is it important to have comps
In a query,
yeah.
if you don't have comps, you don't have comps. Yeah. Yeah, don't struggle to fit in your story with comps. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. Okay? And if you do comps, make sure there's something that's not really obscure that the agent wouldn't even know about. So, okay, so I'm going to give you a few of these. All right, a teenage girl from Kansas wants more than anything to go home, but can't because she's stuck in a strange land. And in the end, she finds out there's no place like home. We all know what that is, right?
Is that Austin Powers?
Yeah, Austin Powers. He transitioned a little bit, That's 33 words. That's something you could probably remember.
Was that a log line or was that an elevator?
That's an elevator pitch. And some of these I got from a website that says how to write an elevator pitch on Jericho Writers. So you can go and look at some of these.
So that was a lot less than 3 minutes.
Yes. Yes. And you want yours to be no more than about a minute, because again, you want the dialogue. You want to establish that connection with the agent. So ideally, that agent's listening to you and you're not rushing your sentences, because everybody's going to get nervous. You're going to rush your sentences. But if you take your time, take a nice deep breath, say hello, introduce yourself, all of that, and you give them your pitch line, and you give it to them in a tone and a conversational tone that they don't feel rushed, they hear the words better, they can then ask you a question. And then you can expand, because you know your book. They're going to ask you a question, you give them an answer, you might expand a little bit more. This is where you might get into a subplot, if you have one, if they ask you a question, but don't start off with a subplot in your pitch. They might ask you another question, you get to answer. See, again, you're doing this back and forth. They're engaged with you, you're engaged with them. Because it is, if you get an agent who wants to represent you and their vision is different than yours, do you really want that agent? So it's a dating. When San Francisco Writers Conference says speed dating, it's like dating. You're trying to figure out if this person's going to be a good fit for you and your book. And they're trying to figure out the same thing. If what you have written is going to be a good fit for them to find the publisher for you.
Is it proper, or does it happen that during a pitch, if both parties seem to be very interested in each other, that pitch goes longer than 3 minutes?
Okay, most pitch sessions, they ring a bell. You need to vacate the chair because now you're interrupting the person behind you their 3 minutes.
What if it's not a pitch session? What if it's something that you set up with
Yeah, then that's different.
okay.
I mean, if it's not a timed thing, then yes, go forward, if that's what they want. And in that 3 minutes, like at San Francisco, you want to give them time to say, please send me a query letter, please send me a synopsis, have them give you their card. Most agents at these conferences are not going to want you to hand them pages because they're seeing hundreds of people. So you want them to have time to ask you for more. Okay? Yeah.
Is it better to start off with, my book is this, compared to the end of your sentence being, and the book is, you know, if you're, so do you start it or do you
So
end the
so
sentence?
when you're doing your actual pitch, not introducing yourself and the book or anything like that, I heard lots of people say, well, my book is about Jessica, and she's a high school student whose brother passed away, was hit by a bomb in Fallujah. You've wasted a whole lot of, my book is about time. Jessica's a high school student, and she's distraught because she's just learned her brother was hit by an IED in Fallujah. Whoa, strong, powerful, instead of that, my book is about, right? So try and get rid of those unnecessary, irrelevant words, because they know that this is what your book is about when you start off like that, okay? All right, here's another one. A professor of symbology unlocks codes buried in ancient works of art as he and others hunt for the Holy Grail. Do we know what that one is? Da Vinci Code. 21 words. And I actually added a couple of words because that wasn't the initial pitch. I added a couple of words to add in, and I added in and others to add some tension in there a little bit more. So, okay, here's another one. A teen romance between an ordinary girl and a boy who is actually a vampire. Twilight, 15 words. 15 words. Now you could expand on that, but that's pretty easy.
I mean, this is probably a dumb question, but if you stand up in front of an agent and you say 15 words, you just stop and wait for them to ask you a question. You know what I mean?
Right. So you have to get a feel for, is this enough? Did I give them enough of a hook? Can I add a little bit more? But start honing down first, add a little bit as you need to,
Is he also at that point gonna, if he has a couple of major accomplishments in writing, is he gonna mention them after the 15 seconds, right?
He could, or you could just wait until you do the query letter.
I'm not understanding the difference between that elevator pitch and a log line.
Okay, so the log line you're gonna put on your back cover blurb, it's like 5 words. Something exciting, shocking about the story, but it's not specifically about we don't know anything about the characters with that log line. We don't know anything about the major tension in the story with that log line. It's something that is just something shocking about that book. Dragons really do exist. It doesn't tell you anything about what my characters are going through or things like that.
Like the same as the shout line.
A shout line, a log line, same thing. Yeah,
Oh, is that right?
yeah.
So you're saying a shout line is pretty much the same thing
It's
as
a log line. Now, some folks in the movie industry might use log line for their pitch.
That's where I'm getting mixed
Okay,
up.
yes. So some in movies, they'll call it a log line, and that is your pitch,
Got it.
okay? I'm gonna give you one of mine. Niall, the new kid in town, stands up to the school bully in defense of others and to protect a centuries-old secret that dragons really do exist. 27 words.
Would you read mine? Would you write mine?
Can you read it one more time?
Sure. Niall, the new kid in town, stands up to the school bully in defense of others and to protect a centuries-old secret that dragons really do exist.
How old, is that a current logline for a current publication of yours?
Yes,
Yeah, so it fits in really well with the times too.
Yes.
The bullying.
yes. I published that book in 2017, so. Okay.
Did you make that pitch to an agent or publisher?
I did not, although I shared the first 3 chapters of this book with Lori McLean from San Francisco Writers Conference, as well as Taylor Morningdale, another agent that does YA stuff. In the end, since I had already started an adult series that I was publishing and doing all on my own, completely different topic that would be a whole nother hour plus to talk about. But since this book was a spin-off for younger kids, I decided to continue to publish on my own. But I got some great feedback from those agents on the first 3 chapters that I gave them. So, okay, I'm gonna give you a couple more. I'm gonna give you some nonfiction now to think about, okay? Scenes are the building blocks for any work of fiction. It's the DNA sequence that makes a novel unputdownable and unforgettable. When writers are able to craft effective, engaging scenes, they can develop a complete, cohesive story and a mesmerizing experience for readers. Now, that's a little bit longer, that's 42 words. And that's from Make a Scene, Crafting a Powerful Story One Scene at a Time from Jordan Rosenfeld. Okay, I don't know if that was her pitch. I took that from information on her book as well as what is on Amazon. Okay? Here's the same book, a different pitch. This book takes you step by step through the elements of strong scene construction and demonstrates how the essential aspects of a compelling story, including character, plot, and dramatic tension, function within the framework of individual scenes to give momentum to the whole narrative. Again, that's 44 words. You get an idea of what that book is about. It's a little bit longer, yeah.
Don't you think it's, the sentence is like, too lengthy, that if she just used it in like short, like little bullet statements, it would have been punchier and attracted the attention and the ear of the reader, the listener?
Yes, but again, I didn't ask her for what her actual pitch line was. I pulled that from what's about her book and did a condensement for you guys. Here's another one. This is a memoir. Fox News correspondent Benjamin Hall recounts his harrowing extraction from war-torn Ukraine and his painful recovery. 16 words. Okay? If you want to look at a back cover blurb, what goes on the back cover for that particular book, here's one. And again, this wasn't actually on the back cover, but this was in some publicity for that book. And that book is called Saved, by the way. It's called Saved, A War Reporter's Mission to Make It Home. So here's what could be a back cover. On March 14th, 2022, a Fox News crew reporting in Ukraine came under fire from a barrage of Russian missiles. The cameraman, Pierre, and a local journalist who was working as their translator, Sasha, were killed in the attack. The correspondent, Benjamin Hall, survived, albeit barely. He lost one leg and the foot on his other leg. He lost the use of one of his hands, and shrapnel cost him one of his eyes. His survival and the astonishing effort to get him out of Ukraine and back to the U.S. for medical attention is the subject of his new book, Saved. See how emotional, gripping? That's what you want. Okay, so now I am going to open this up and we're going to do a stop recording on this because I want you guys to feel comfortable in pitching and providing feedback. And I'm going to give you a quick little thing on how we're going to do this. But I don't want that recording out anywhere. So our Zoom folks can still hear us, but this won't be recorded from here on.